I kind of wasted my money on because your profile doesn't really match the requirements of the school. So from the 20 schools, I got in total 5 interviews.
Hi, everybody. Today with me, I got Dr. Armin, who was fortunate that he got accepted to 3 schools and had 5 invites during his first cycle. So I'm glad to have Dr. Armin with me today. And he's originally from Germany. He did his education up there. His family is actually from Iran. So it was a very fascinating thing. I got to work with him in 2021. If I'm
Yeah,
correct, I was studying in University of Colorado at that time, and I was working with him in his Caapid application, kind of like a fellowship where we were going through the whole process for his first cycle. And today I wanted to interview him. So thank you, Dr. Armin, for giving us your time.
yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. William, for having me. It's great to see you again
Yes,
after
yes.
that long.
Yeah, I remember I used to be sitting in the school library doing interview prep with you at that time when we were preparing interview with you. Time goes by fast.
Time flies, yes, sir.
How
Now we're done.
Yep. Here's the first question I want to ask you. I didn't tell you, but I think I've mentioned my parents lived in Germany for 13 years. He went for his PhD to Berlin and Freie University. So how do you feel like, how much is the difference from Germany and US overall, the infrastructure, the society, people? I know Germans are a little bit more introverts. They don't like to talk too much on the street, but how's your overall experience?
So there is a lot of cultural difference, I would say. As you said, the mentality of the people in Europe is quite different from what it is here in the US. I feel like since I've been in the US for a lot of vacations, I kind of got used to the difference. But as you said, Germans are very stiff at the beginning, more maybe introverted. But I got used to the culture change quite fast, and the overall mentality here in the US is just very, go fast and a very straightforward society. So I didn't have a lot of problems to get used to the new atmosphere.
And you were coming from, and we'll discuss about your Capid application and what were the things that help you. Also, for people, there are very few people who come from countries like Italy, Germany. I have one candidate coming from, I talked to Turkey. These are one from Macedonia. Like these are rare countries, not many applicants come from there, but I'll discuss that as well. Uh, so why comparatively thought about moving to US and pursuing education when you were already in Europe?
Mhm. So I had a few relatives in the US, and I saw the other side of dentistry in the United States, and it's very fast growing. And I always felt like, especially digital dentistry is coming up, and it's very fast establishing in the United States. So I wanted to also improve myself in that direction and get the license, and start my new life in the United States to get a better clinician overall. So that was my main goal in going for that journey to experience the new sides of dentistry.
That's good. I actually, yeah, most of the, this is funny, most of the implant research and even digital dentistry, because it goes hand in hand with implant industry, came off initiated in Europe. And when it
Hmm.
becomes bigger, US as a business just buy it in, do more research, make bigger product because they have bigger economy, more money in the
Hmm.
healthcare. So that's what they do. But coming to your Capid application, so when you were applying, and I remember when you reached out to me, I still remember I was sitting outside my University of Colorado campus when I talked to you for the first time. How many schools were you planning to apply in your first cycle?
So I was a little bit lost in the beginning about how to start the whole process. So I was like, the more the better, without really preparing on what schools I really desire. So that was a little bit of a mistake on my side. So I applied, I think, to 20 schools. Some of them I kind of wasted my money on because your profile doesn't really match the requirements of the school. So from the 20 schools, I got in total 5 interviews, but they were all spread around the whole United States. So I really didn't focus on one side of the US or the other. I just went for the broad mass of schools.
So you're studying in San Antonio, you got accepted to Louisville, Kentucky, you got accepted to LSU, and you got interview at LLU, which you declined because you already had acceptance, and you got interviewed at USC, I remember, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so when you say you wasted money and some of the schools didn't match your criteria, was it the green card part you're talking about, the visa thing, or what was not matching?
So it was either the legal conditions with the green card that some schools put restrictions on. They don't support student visas, for example. On the other hand, there was also things to consider like tuition, cost of living. So these are all things that I think we, as an applicant, should think long term, because there's a difference considering cost of living in New York considered to Texas. So I am overall very happy with my decision that I went to San Antonio, not only for the clinical part, but also for the overall cost of the whole program.
How much is it costing you right now in San Antonio overall on average? People who, not you, but overall any person who will graduate, like Colorado would be 300 to 350. What would be San Antonio's?
So the prices are always adapting with years to years, but you can approximately calculate around 250 to maybe 300, depending on your lifestyle.
That's good. Like around, if it's below 300, I think in South is still cheaper. So let's ask a little bit more about San Antonio. So San Antonio, what are the things do you think San Antonio likes to see in their candidates? When you see your classmates and yourself, what are the things that they like in an applicant?
Mm-hmm. So the broad, like my classmates, they are from young candidates to middle-aged candidates around 30 and 40. So it's not really the experience that's necessary to get accepted in the school, but I think it's the well balance in everything. So putting together your unique story in the statement is one of the very important things that you also taught me back in the days during my process. Your GPA, for example, is not the only factor as well that's important, because people from Europe, the grading system is so much different than in other countries, and it seems like a little inflationary considering the GPAs. So that's also not the only case, the only factor that's important for acceptance. There is community services, CE experience, maybe US experience that's important. And when there is a well balance in everything, and they see that you're trying to self-improve yourself during the process and always, get new things rolling in your CV, that's, I think, the key to at least getting invited and telling your story to the committee.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's the total number of seats San Antonio have right now?
So they increased it to a total number of 20 people.
Nice. So they will keep increasing this because a lot of schools see this is very good revenue for them. Foreign trained dentists come in for 2 years, pay 300,000, 250 and graduate. So it's a good business and they try to increase it. But overall, one of the things I want to tell candidates that Dr. Armin mentioned is that you should be very cautious about picking your schools, looking into the criteria, going into the ADA Caapid directory, see which schools require a green card, which will offer you F1 visa, even the area where you want to go. Like Colombia right now is above $500,000, like more than $500,000. And if you go to San Antonio or Alabama, you will come out around $300,000, or Colorado. So comparatively, and that's like 10 years or more student loan. So you wanna understand that cost system too when you're applying and focusing on those schools as well. So how did you get to hear about me? I remember you reach out to me, and I didn't knew many I read your name and I was trying to see who this person, like, where is he from? I thought it's an Iranian name or something like that. But then you mentioned from Germany. So how did you get to know about me back like 2021, right?
Yes. So actually, it all started in 2020 when I graduated from Hannover Medical School.
Mm.
I knew I wanted to move abroad to the United States. I did my INBDE, and I was very happy with passing. But that's only, it's a big
1%.
milestone, but that's one part of the puzzle. So I was scrolling through Instagram. You were an international student back then in Colorado, and I found you on Instagram. I texted you, and I'm very happy that our paths crossed back in the days. And everything went actually from there, very successful.
I'm happy because you had a very unique story. I don't know how much detail I'm going to share, but comparatively, your family is coming from a background like coming from Iran. You grew up in Germany and having this diverse background. And that was one of the key things when I was working in your application in the personal statement or the other interview part is that making sure we bring that diversity out. And I think especially people who are applying from Turkey or Europe, and I have somebody from Italy as well right now studying in Temple University, is that bringing out that diversity because I say you're like a unicorn in the system. There are very few
Hmm.
people coming from Germany, so they would like an application. They want to see European education as good standard. So they would like to see, okay, what this person has done, how good they are. So it gives you an opportunity. So coming back to the rest of the schools where you applied, Louisville, Kentucky, LSU. How was your experience with them when you were applying? What were the big things you remember when you were filling in the application or the interview that you would suggest people to take care of?
Hmm. So I think getting to know the schools that you're applying very well is key. Like you got to know the philosophy of the school, what are maybe the clinical requirements of the school. Does it suit your desires? What you're looking for in the program? So there's a supplemental application pretty much for every school. So you really have to prepare the answers to those questions. So they are the admissions committee really sees that you dealt with the topic and you know what the school is about. Because for me, most important was having more requirements in the clinic because I wanted to get also a return of my investment and not only take care of didactic courses. I also wanted a lot of clinical exposure. That's my main reason for San Antonio, for example.
Yep, San Antonio is a famous school with its residencies and stuff. It's even LSU has one of the best oral surgery department comparatively. But one trend I see, you got most acceptances on the south of US. So the
Yes,
Southerns love you.
that was very interesting. We applied. I mean, you've been with me through the whole process. We applied to pretty much every site in the United States, and but I mostly got the interviews and the acceptances in the southeast area. So
I
there
think
must be something
the
going on.
cowboys love Germans. Maybe that's the reason.
It could be one of the reasons. Yeah.
Yep, yep. But people who are watching this, so if you didn't understand, like, I think Armin was one of the first few candidates I officially did like a fellowship program. I didn't even call it a fellowship. So what I told him, like, I'm gonna work throughout your application until you get accepted, whether it's interviews, supplemental applications, personal statement, whatever help he would need in the Caapid process. I'm gonna guide him, help him for a fixed amount of money. And at that time, I started doing this when I was a student, and this was back in 2021. Fortunately, he was blessed that he got accepted to three schools in his first cycle, and I was fortunate to be part of his journey. So, if you guys are watching this, if you want to be helped or assisted through this fellowship program, I'm doing it still in 2025. You can reach out to me. I have my contacts is in the description. So coming back to the question, Armin. So people who are applying right now, San Antonio is a very hot favorite because a lot of candidates, immigrants live in Texas. So people who are planning to apply to San Antonio, applying to Caapid, and the March cycle is coming up, give us like 5 to 6 things that you would suggest to these people or to your younger self. Like, what are the things you will suggest? Like, make sure you do this, or what are the guidelines you would suggest them to?
Mhm. So getting the highest scores in the things that are in possible, like TOEFL, for example, get a good grade. If you didn't score well, try to repeat it, retake it, and put the my best score in the application. Um, Improve maybe your CV, your profile on US experience. If you can, do observerships in the school. I mean, pretty much every school offers some kind of paid observerships where you can get to know the faculties, and you can try to meet them, talk with them, give them tell them your desires. So this is the experience is very important in the US, in the schools, and in the best case scenario, community services, very important. Mm,
What else will you suggest people who are preparing for their personal statements right now, who are
mhm.
selecting schools, who are even financial aspect? Because it was even coming from Germany, you were just came right out of dental school, a lot of money traveling. Any suggestions on that part?
Try to figure out, how you can finance the whole program. Um, you can maybe focus on schools that aren't that expensive if the money is the problem. So for me, it was. That's why I'm saying that I should have paid more attention to my school selection. Besides that, improve maybe doing more CE courses. So there's always room for improvement in every aspect. The admissions committee, they basically want to see that you're not stopping on improving your skill sets in whatever aspect.
So here's one very important thing that you pointed out. One is doing some kind of, and did you do any preceptorship, paid preceptorship or observership?
I did not. My experience was mostly in Europe, doing CE courses in Europe. I had one US observership back in the COVID days when there were a lot of restrictions, and I did
An implant training in
one.
Switzerland or somewhere you did?
Yes, correct. Yeah, I did a bench course in LSU. So also there's a lot of bench courses provided in
Yes.
school. So this is also a very good way in getting to know the faculties that helped me in keeping in touch with the faculties in LSU, for example, and building a relationship. So networking, I think, is just the most
Important
significant,
thing.
substantial thing in the US. Yeah.
So in your case, this is a very good point that you mentioned that you got a bench exam course at LSU. And I think Temple University is offering them, Pittsburgh is offering that, Buffalo is offering that. And usually, if I'm not saying it happens every time, but if you attend these courses, which are expensive, you're paying them money and they can be good, they might not be that good, but it increases that your chances of being invited from that school. So,
Definitely. Yeah.
how much was LSU's bench prep course at that time?
I think
Back
it was three and a half grand for 3 days.
it
But
might be now 8, 9 thousand.
oh,
Yeah,
really? That's
it
a lot of money. But I mean, if there are four spots of acceptances in LSU and there's a stack of, let's say, 1,000 applicants,
it
there's a high chance that if the faculty knows you, your application might go to the top of the whole stack. So it's not it can be a good gamble, but there is no guarantee, of course.
yep. You so I actually was fortunate. So I go for dental training in Alabama. There's a place called Dental Foundry that has an
Mhm.
AEGD program. The person who runs is Dr. McCracken. He's a prosthodontist. I was fortunate that he was doing selection for the AEGD residents, and I got to sit in the committee. And it's a very good, like it's considered to be one of the best AEGD program in the South. Uh,
Yeah.
One of them, if you ask people, it's in called Dental Foundry in Alabama. And when I asked him, I was like, Doc, what do you see in these residents? Is it the grades? He said, well, grades are not that much, but couple of things I see is how many times did they come in for observership? How many times? The second thing is how good of a team player they are when they are here. And I was like, how do you make sure that they are good team player? And he said, well, I look at their summer jobs, what kind of odd jobs they have done. And I was laughing because that place actually is made for a lot of, they do a lot of surgery for opioid patients. So it's a very rough place because most patients who are coming in, it's a non-profit community health center. They are working with people who are drug addicts. So it's a very rough neighborhood area to work in. On the other hand, the dentist schools are a little bit more posh inside, they are more research based. So they also like to see how many times you came in, you approached, you worked, and then your attitude while you're there. Everybody is looking at your personality, how you communicate. Are you a good team player, or are you going to annoy the hell out of them for the next 2 years? Because you would agree there are people in the class who will be just annoying as hell for the faculty and for the rest of the people as well.
Yeah, I
So
think that's a good point. At the end of the day, also one important thing is they want to make sure uh, you can be comfortable in the new environment and you're not a troublemaker, right?
yeah, that because you're coming from a different part of a world where you might be a king or a queen, and
Yeah,
now you're coming here and acting a queen in front of everybody, and the faculty is getting annoying. The students are complaining about you, and they have dealt with this over so many years. They have red flags. As soon as they see your personality has that tendency, they will back off from you.
hmm yeah, yeah. I think personality-wise, being humble is important, but also not lowballing yourself too much because you want to stand out, but you also want to show that you're able to adapt and learn from others as well. So I think a well balanced is important.
Yeah, that's very important point that you said. People think being humble is like being weak or being ashamed of yourself. Like I get candidates who would be talking like they are going in for charity work. Oh,
Yeah,
please, can I get accept? I'm like, this is a business. You are
yeah,
negotiating. It's not a charity. And when you start asking for charity, they will back off from you because charities are done in churches and mosques, not in dental schools. What they are
yes.
looking for is somebody who's hardworking and still willing to take orders and work hard as a student. You're paying, so it's a fine line. Like, don't try to act like a charity case because it just annoys people. So that's a very important point. So, any last word before we leave? Any suggestions to the people who are planning for Caapid, who are looking for assistance, who are looking for help, who are trying to prepare? Any last piece of word that you would suggest them before we end this call, Armin?
I would say don't hesitate like to reach out, for example, to Dr. William if you need assistance with statements, for example. I had issues organizing my ideas. Everybody is very unique and has their stories. It's just about putting them into words or organizing the right order. So don't hesitate to seek out for help and talk to try to network as much as possible, to ask others for help or recommendations and advice. So I think that's a good way in setting your application together.
Yep. So thank you, Armin. And one other thing I'll tell people is that being prepared beforehand, selecting school, knowing your finances, your visa status, and I'll post a link of a video up here at the end, and you can watch that. It will guide you more regarding Caapid. And if you're looking for help, whether it's fellowship program where you need complete help to get accepted, or just with your personal statement or resume, you can reach out. My number is going to be in the description or showing up in the screen, and we'll see you in a more meaningful video. Thank you.
It was great
Thanks, Armin.
talking to you, of course.